Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Mary from Crafty Fun with Mary's Kazaz, and this is the tutorial from the Zoom class that was held on Sunday, I think it's the 6th of December 2020. And we're making a shutter fold card, and this is what it looks like. Now, this is done with a gatefold opening, and it just, for all intents and purposes, looks like a normal gatefold card. And then when you open it up, it has like a camera shutter that then reveals another little sentimental greeting inside. So they're attached here on the sides here. So as you come in and out, it opens out like a shutter. Now, it looks really fancy, but it is so easy to make. So let's get into it. What you will need is your card base. This is all in inches, 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches. You need another piece, which will be the shutter mechanism inside, and it needs to be 7 inches by 4 inches. And you would generally keep all these in the same colour, or in the same colour family at least. You then need, when you do your gatefold, you have, and this layer here is optional, but sometimes it looks nicer to just get an extra layer in it. So where I've got this white one, that white layer, that needs to be 2 inches by 5 3/8, and you need 2 of those. So 2 inches by 5 3/8, and you need 2 pieces. And then you have the matte layers for those, which is just paper layers. And they are 1 7/8, 1 7/8 by 5 1/4, and you need 2 pieces of those. And then in the inside, you need this piece here. So I've got a white layer and then a paper layer. So the white cardstock layer is 3 inches by 5.5. So that's 3 by 5.5. And the matte layer for that is 2 7/8 by 5 3/8. And that's the matte layer for that. Now, you do need to create this opening here, and I've done it with a circle die, just this one here, and you create that circle die cut there. And then I've created a border with that. So I've already gone ahead and created my border. Now, you don't have to put that border on, it just adds to it. If you don't have circle dies, you could easily just cut a square with a ruler and a craft knife. So you don't have to have anything fancy. And then you just need your embellishments. You'll need a scrap piece of paper to write your message here. And what I've used is the piece that cuts out of this circle for that. But if you're using paper that is dark and you can't do that, you'll need to put a piece in there to be able to stamp onto, unless you're using a white card base, then it wouldn't matter. And then, you know, you can embellish this inside as much or as little as you want. I've done nothing else on the inside. I've added just a little birdie in there. And then on the front, I've used, again, the just die cuts for the frame and the piece here. On the card I'm going to make today, I've done that with the heart die. But again, if you don't have dies, you could easily just do that as a rectangle or a square piece and attach, and it just attaches to one side. So don't be concerned that you might not have any dies. You don't need anything fancy. You can do this without having any dies. All right, so what we'll do, what I'm going to do first up is I'm going to attach, this is the insert layer, this piece here. I'm going to attach these two together first, and make sure you attach down into here, because we're going to cut the circle out of here, and you want to make sure that the edges of the circle all stay down. So go ahead and put that together. And if you wanted to ink blend your paper, now is the time to do all of that as well. So all of that would need to be done before you construct it. I use double-sided tape. But you can use whatever you want. If you've got a great wet glue, use a wet glue. It doesn't really matter what you use. It's, you know, whatever you have in your stash. And this is the thing about these Zoom classes. They're meant for use what's in your stash. For those that may be joining me for the first time, I started these free Zoom classes in Australia for when we went into lockdown originally, when the whole country went into lockdown in March. And so I wanted to make sure that as crafters, you know, we're people who like to have connections to people. We go to classes and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure that people still had those connections, and what a great way to do it when we have the technology. So I did them through Zoom, and it is intended for you to use whatever is in your stash, and they're not hard. They're not hard classes to do, and I generally always will do a tutorial like I'm doing today, that you can go back on it. Now, I'm just going to go off camera for just a minute. I'm going to cut this circle die out here, and it just essentially needs to be centered. So I'm going to cut that. So back in a minute. Right, I'm just off to the side. I have my easy press, so can't put it on the desk and film at the same time. So that just cuts out the circle. Now, because I'm using it's a light coloured paper, I'll be able to do the same thing I did here and use that in the back to do the stamping. So we'll do that later. I'll just put that aside for now. We don't need that die anymore. And this die cut that I did earlier is what is going to be my across here. Now, you'll notice it has moved, it's shifted in my, I didn't use any washi tape or anything to hold it down. So you'll notice that I've got a larger end here than here. But that's, you know, it's neither here nor there. Handmade cards, you've got to remember they're handmade cards. You know, we all have oopses. And my favourite thing to say is, you know, if it was meant to be perfect, we would be named Hallmark. You know, embrace the little things that you don't think are you know, perfect, because I'm pretty sure your recipient, if you said nothing, wouldn't know the difference. They won't know that this wasn't supposed to have, you know, an even border all around. They're not going to know that. And unless you point that out, which you shouldn't, just embrace it. It's not the end of the world that I have, you know, a skinny here and a fatter one down there. All right, so that's that piece there, which is this middle piece in here. Now we do this piece here, we do at the last, just before we put it all together. Now there's just one more item I haven't got out. We do need to have foam tape for on here as well, just so that piece, you have to have it set up for the mechanism to work. So I'm just going to attach that now. Now we don't need to put foam all the way over this. It just literally needs to be on the bottom and on the top, and I think I do one here in the center just to give it a little bit of support. And you don't need it all around here, because it's going to interfere with the mechanism if you do that. So it only just needs to be the tops and the bottoms. I'm using the Crafter's Companion foam squares. They've got a nice height to them. I like them. Sometimes you might find that the backing tapes get a little bit harder to get off, but I just use my little pokey tool and stab them and bring them up that way, and I'll show you that when I go to take them off. Right, so now we'll get in. There is a little bit of scoring that you need to do, not a lot. Those aside for now. So take your 4x7 piece, and we're going to create across the, let me look at my notes here. So we're going to score at 1/2 inch along that 4-inch side. So 1/2 inch on that 4-inch side. So you're sort of getting it all the way down. And then we're going to cut this piece in half. Now this piece is 7 inches. So we want to cut this in half at 3.5. And this is the arms of the mechanism. So you'll end up with 2 pieces that are exactly the same, scored at 1/2 inch. And that's these pieces here, and this little flap here tucks in underneath, and we'll get to that in a minute. Now, while we have these pieces, you need to find the halfway mark. So these pieces are 3.5 by 4. So either grab your ruler. I found it easiest with a ruler. We just need to find that halfway mark. So this is across here at 3.5. So my halfway mark is going to be 1 3/4. So I'm just going to make a little tick mark at the top and a little tick mark at the bottom, and we'll rub these marks out later. And then just draw a line, just a light pencil line, doesn't have to be anything too much, just so you can see it really. And then we're going to mark, this is 4 inches, so this will be a 2-inch mark here and here. And what we'll end up getting is the middle of the page. And again, just draw another little light pencil mark from those 2 marks there. And what you find is you find this halfway mark. So then we need to cut from this point down to this point. Now, if you've got pretty good scissor skills and you can do that in one hit without drawing it, just go ahead and cut that from that center point, or from that corner piece into the center. I'm actually going to draw mine. I don't trust my eye to do that. So I'm just going to draw a very light pencil mark again from the center down to the corner, and then I will cut that out. So I just want to cut up from the corner into that center, and we're cutting a V into this. And we're going to do the same thing onto the other piece as well. Now, you could just line these 2 up together. You could just line these together and draw that pencil mark in. And then do exactly the same thing, cut that out. And then rub your pencil marks out. Right, so that's the mechanism. So we don't need to do anything with those just yet. We will be putting tape along that, so you could actually probably do that now. I'm just going to lightly bend those. They will get scored down properly. Because it's a 1/2 inch little tab, if you're using the 6mm tape, you can get two rows into there. And it does have a little bit of pressure and movement on it all the time. So if you could glue that as well. The thing with gluing is obviously you need to get your setup pretty accurate before you put it on. Okay, so now we will also now score this piece here, which is the base card, and we're just creating a gatefold card. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can do this. We're going to score along the 8.5 inch side, and we need to score at 2 1/8. Now, you can score at 2 1/8 on both ends, but what I like to do is to actually score just the one side and then fold the other side into it, because you get a more accurate fold that way. So I could just turn this around and do 2 1/8, but because of the width of the score line, sometimes it gets a little bit out of alignment. So now I'm using textured card. If you find that you get your card cracks, fold it the opposite way first to what you want, and then fold it to the way you want it, and that will stop that cracking. And that's pretty consistent with most brands of paper. In fact, probably all brands of paper. The cracking occurs because you are trying to move the grain of the paper against itself, and so it cracks. So if you fold it the other way first and then come in and fold it, then you should be fine. So that's one side. And because we didn't score this side, all you do is you bring it up, right up to that other one first. Actually, I'm going to do it the opposite way so I don't get the cracking. And by not scoring it means that you get it right up against it. Sometimes when you score it, it'll sort of only kind of meet in the middle, and that's just because of the width of the score line. So then just on the side that you actually want it, bring it up so that it sits right up against the edge of that other piece there. Sometimes you'll get a misalignment, but that's more to do with your cutting than anything else, which is what I'm experiencing here. And again, you just embrace it. You know, trimmers are not 100% perfect. We're not 100% perfect. And that's your standard old gatefold card, normal gatefold card. So now that we've done that, we might put all our bits and bobs together. So these are the two pieces that layer here. Oop, you can't even see that. I might just bring that down a bit. And I'm sorry for when the camera goes in and out, the light paper and white don't really focus well. So I'm just putting these layers on here now. So I'll put some tape on. Again, I'm just using tape to layer these up. There's nothing special with these. And it just gives you a small, if I put it on properly, it gives you a small little border all the way around. And when I say small, it is a very small. I think it's like 1/16, because I think the cardstock layer is only an 1/8 of a difference in total. So your actual border is only 1/16. If you don't like a tiny border like that, you just cut your matte layers a little bit smaller for each layer. And in the world of card making, scrapbooking, here in Australia, we work centimetres. Most of my tutorials are based on something I've already seen, and it would be, in the US or UK, and they work in inches. You can convert this to centimetres, of course. When you're doing layering, though, layering works really best in inches rather than centimetres. You get a much nicer layer, even layer when you're working in inches, and that's another reason why I've sort of kept them into inches as well. But, like I said, you can convert inches to centimetres and do it that way. There's no hard and fast rule on how you do that. Right, so just putting on this last one now. So that's all the layers. The front layer that we had here, I'm using hearts this time, so I'm going to go and put that on. I've got to still stamp on the front layer, and because I'm going to stamp, I need to have my smooth side on the outside, just so that I get a better stamping image onto there. And before I go and put anything else on, I'm actually going to do something a little different to what I did in my first example. And I'll come back to this and do that. But what I'm going to do on the inside, because this was plain, what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to do some stamping, background stamping in a colour ink that is very similar to my background. So it's almost going to look like it's just like a watermark kind of thing. but I'm even going to do it more dull than that. So I'm going to do what they call second generation. So I'm just going to stamp off here, and then I'm going to stamp off onto here, and I'm just chasing a background image that's not prominent, but it's just a background image. So I want to do that all the way across. And I'm just using distress ink. You could use any kind of ink here. And again, I'm just going to stamp off and then stamp onto here. So it creates what I will see is coming out here is this image. And then, of course, I've got this top piece up here that you won't see anything, which is along here. And I've got my handy dandy little dragonfly, because there's dragonflies in here, that I'm just going to do the same thing. And again, I just want it in second generation, so I'm going to stamp off. And I'm just going to add in dragonflies. Now, some of these will get covered. You won't actually see them because they'll be covered by other stuff. But you can see, well, down here, you'll see most of them. Across here, you won't see a lot. And so I'm just creating extra, stuff into here. And it doesn't matter which way they go. It doesn't matter if they come off the page. It is just adding in extra to your page. Might even have one come off. And last one. So when you put it all together, you'll see the design of it a bit better. So I've just basically created a background there. All right, so now that we've got basically all our bits ready to go, we can construct it. So this piece here sits centered to this center when your card is folded up. So this piece, it just sits center in here, and it is the same height as the card. And we only attach it at this stage on the bottom. So just, now I was talking before about how we take off the pieces with my little pokey tool, and I just stab them and stab them. That wasn't a good display. Got actually something stuck on the top of that. That's probably why it didn't work properly. I just stab them and take the backings off that way. If you've got fingernails too, that would work as well. All right, so we're just going to attach this to the bottom for now and not the top, because we need to be able to get in to the rest of the card. And then these are our mechanism pieces, and they sit one on either side. But as you can see here, these tabs fold under. So the way we do that is we're just going to take off tape. And this is the reason we left this open. So we're going to bring this down, and the edge of this sits along the edge of where this folds over, right up to the very edge of it. And this needs to sort of be in the center. So this piece here into the center. So once you've got that lined up and right up to there, you close that down, and it will grip on to that tape, and then fold it over, and then just burnish that down and hold that in place. And then we do exactly the same thing for the other side. Take your backings off, or like I said, if you're using glue here, you just got to work quicker depending on how your glue dries. Now, you can either have it over the top or underneath. It doesn't really matter so long as both sides are the same. So it doesn't matter which way you do that. And again, you're going to make sure that you've got these two pieces now are lined up the same way. So they need to match each other, because you don't want to be able to see any of that out the other side. And again, right up to the edge of where that comes in, and then just fold that over to pick up that tape or the glue. And then it feels like it's going to resist you. It's just because this is not yet folded down. So just give that a nice crease. And so what we've made now is the shutter piece. So when you close up, and then it just all takes time for it all to come into place. And we haven't put this down yet. But before we put this down, this little disc that I cut out, which was the circle, is what will go in here. And you place it so that you can't see any of the background. And that's where I'm going to stamp in there. Now, when I stamp, you can do this two ways. You can stamp on that little disc first and then line it up. Or you can leave it sort of in place and then stamp on it while it's there, or you can mark where that shutter is so you know where your piece is. I think on my other one, I just stamped directly with it sitting there. And I'm actually going to put it in place. But if you're going to do it separately, then you would need to make sure that you don't attach this until the last moment. But I know that I can successfully stamp with it all in place. You just want to have it flat and move this so that you can't see any, like it covers the full thing. Right, so now I'm going to stamp off, set my little stamp up here. So it's straight, I'm just using the lines of my mat to get that lined up. If you're not confident with your stamping and you think you're going to stamp it crooked or whatever, then, stamp that little disc before you put it in. I'm comfortable with however this turns out. Oh, beautiful. Have a happy day. Awesome. Look at that. How cool. It is so easy. Wasn't that easy? Now that you've got that in place, you can go ahead and put these ones down now. So just take the backings off that double-sided tape, double-sided foam, sorry. And that's the reason why you had to use foam, because this mechanism would interfere with the mechanism otherwise. Now you'll see that mine is just, might not be able to see it, it's just sitting up above it. You could, get all fancy and try and trim that off. In fact, I'm actually just going to move it. I can see that foam out the other side there. So that's just something you'll have to be careful of. Don't put it right up to the edge. Put that foam down a little bit. I'm just going to move mine down. My backings come off, so I'll put another piece on there. There they go there. Needs to be down a little bit. Now mine is just slightly a bit bigger. You could just, line that up and trim that against your card. It's no big deal. Even if you've left it, it's no big deal either. There we go. All right, so that's essentially the shutter card. You've done it. The rest is just all embellishments. How cool is that? And see the difference of doing something here on the background. This first one I left plain, which is fine too. And you'll see I've overstamped here, but I'm just embracing that. And then the front, and then you embellish however you want. You wouldn't really be able to do too many embellishments here in the front, in the inside of the card, but you can certainly embellish the outside of the card. I think it worked well putting that the little bit of background stamping. I think that works really good. I could have, if I had thought of it early enough, I could have done a little dragonfly up in there, and I can still do that and just add it in. So it's not all lost what you want to do there. Just keep in mind, because it is a gatefold card, if you go and put big embellishments on here, then you're not going to be able to successfully make that go flat. Like your card will sit out a little bit, and then this piece here will sort of sit out a bit funny too. So really all I've got left to do now is to stamp this here, and I will use my stamping platform for that because that's a lot easier to try and line up. And I've got my stamp here. My blackie. And the front of it, you can, you know, you can embellish as much as you want. Hope your day is truly amazing. Sorry, I'm all out of, must have set my camera up different today. It's all out of shot. And again, I could, you know, I could do more things. I might put some little dots onto that. And you're just going to attach it to one side. Doesn't matter which side you attach to, just don't attach to both. So I'm going to do this side here. Made really easy because I know I lined up from half the heart. And then I line up that half a heart back over onto this side here, and I know that that then is only one half of it there. And because I've done dragonflies along here, I might just do another couple down on, or just one onto there. Again, onto these here, you could do as well, which I might even do that as well. So it was second generation on the inside. This will actually fit one in here just nicely. And then this is, because it's leaning onto there, if you're going to stamp that, this would be the time to just bring it out flat. And I'm actually going to do these a little bit darker in the first generation, and I'm just literally going to just do 3 and turn them each way. Oh, that's so pretty. And I could add glitter to that as well. I'm not going to do anything on that side. I think you'll, you know, there's a point of where you have too much on your card. And like I said, I could actually add some more into here just by stamping this out again, fussy cutting them out and attaching them onto here. But I actually think I'm just going to, I might do one and do it up the top. And again, you don't want to overpower it either. I've created extra texture here by, this is the textured side, this is the smooth side. You could put paper mats in here if you wanted all of this. But again, if you did that and had all these paper mats here, it would all just look the same. You'd have no variance. So I'm really happy with that. I might actually just put a bit of glitter glue into this one here and just give that a point of difference for just that one. You can't really put a lot in here because these mechanisms will get caught. But that's your shutter card. How cool is that? Now, some people online have also called this the peekaboo card, but shutter card really describes it best because it's like a, you know, it is like a camera shutter where that opens up. See how that there opens up. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. If you do like it, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment. And I'd love to see what you guys create as well. If you want to send a photo into Crafty Fun with Mary's Kazzaz, I'd love to see it. Have a great day, everybody. I hope your day is truly amazing.